What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and I've got a really interesting video today, especially if you're a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collector or just a fan of comic history in general. So stay tuned. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. Now this is a video that to me is really fun because it all came about because of somebody who watches this channel. So, I recently did an unboxing, like if you saw on the thumbnail for this video, I did an unboxing of this book. So if you're not familiar with this book, this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 3, but it's the variant edition. So you can see up there at the top, it's the variant cover. This one also happens to be signed by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird on the interior. This is the variant cover. If you're not familiar with the variant cover, there is another cover where you can see on this one, you look at Laird in the back, that Laird's photos, and it's like filled in. On this one, you see it's all white. And so the variant cover has a much more blue hue to it, and it's also known often as the Laird's photo variant. You can see at the top, Laird's photo variant, white on cover, and so it's got a lot more white on it. I actually really like the look of this cover. I like the blue look, but that's not what this is about. It's about this book, but it's not about talking about that too much. Now, one of the important things about that variant book is that it is much more rare than the non-variant. There was a total of 50,000 copies of this book printed, a lot less of the variant, and that's one of the things we're going to be talking about here. So when I put out this video, because this is a rare book, you don't see it very often, someone that watches my channel actually reached out to me, and his name is Lawrence Klein. And if I would not be exaggerating if I said Lawrence has lived the comic collector's life that I think most people would dream of, would definitely be jealous of. He has hung out at Jack Kirby's house. He has met L.B. Cole. He has hung out with Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird at their residences in Northampton and in San Diego. He was referred to by Kevin Eastman as their #1 fan. He is the first person that wrote them a fan letter. Now, he also founded and ran the Museum of Comic and Cartoon Art, or MoCA, and the MoCA Art Festival in New York City. If you want to check out, there's another interview that was done with him on That Pop Culture Show. It's another YouTube channel, and they did some more detailed interview with him. You can go check that out. He is currently a lawyer, actually does pro bono work for comic artists to help them out with often with financial situations later on as they've gotten later into their careers. He's also, and still does, curate comic and art themed exhibits around the world. For example, he has one that he's done for the Berkshire Art Association, and also did one for the Amadora BD International Comic Festival in Lisbon, Portugal. So all this to say that he is very knowledgeable about comics and has a long history with collecting. And like I said, he also apparently watches my channel, which I think is incredible. I think that's crazy. Just thinking about all the different people that watch this content that's out there on YouTube, Instagram, everything. So he reached out to me with some really interesting information about this book specifically, issue number 3, the variant print. So the general knowledge has been that there were 500 copies of the variant printed. This is out of the total print run of 50,000. So if you go check out sites like Recalled Comics, where you can get the estimated print runs of various rare books, you can see that they state there was an initial print run of 500 that were done for the New York City Comic Con. And there are a few things that are wrong with this based on my conversation that I had with Lawrence. And he has a pretty ironclad piece of information that he provided me to really back this up. So the issue, if you see on this page, I'll put a little screenshot of it up here, is that they reference a 1989 Comic Buyer's Guide article where it states that an initial print run of 500 was done prior to a convention. And this is what everyone references. Everybody references that 500 print run, and it's from that article. It's even in the Overstreet Buyer's Guide. You can see, let's see, I can get it to show up here. So right there on the side, you can see three variant, right by my finger here, 500 copies, cover printed at different plant, has Laird's photo in white rather than light blue. So that's what everybody has. They all reference 500, but I am here to tell you that that number is incorrect. There are actually quite a few less copies than 500 that were printed. And like I mentioned previously, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird considered Lawrence their #1 fan. In fact, he actually even has a letter that's published in issue number 3. So if you go to comics.org, the Grand Comic Database, they have a description of the book, and they say there is a letter from various people. One of them is Lawrence Klein. I'll put the little screenshot of it up there too. Now, also, when the recent 9.0 Gobbledygook 1 sold, so that's the first time Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were in print, sold for a record $71,390, the website Previews World reached out to Kevin Eastman for a comment, and he said, "Wow, when I read of the success of this auction, one of my first thoughts were of a fan letter Peter and I received from a young collector back in 1984, Lawrence Klein, who explained how he and his father traveled all over to New York City comic shops and conventions where they eventually purchased a TMNT 1 for $25. We were blown away. Who would pay $25 for our nutty little $1.50 self-published comic?" So this is all to say that he really does have this connection with Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. And I thought one thing we talked about, because I talked with him on the phone for around an hour, and one thing that was really funny to me was that he has started to send books into CGC, CBCS, PGX. He's trying them all out for grading so that he can eventually move those books on, pass those books on to other people. And he's experiencing the same problems with CGC that most of us do. One thing was that he sent in that exact TMNT 1 that he and his dad went around and searched for, and it came back a 9.6. Most recent sale for a 9.6 was $69,000. The recent high was $78,000, so that's how much that book is worth now. Big jump from the $25 back in 1984. But what he experienced was that he got a huge bill increase from CGC because it's 3% of value for the book, and if they say it was, say, $70,000, it's a $2,100 bill. He got a huge bill increase from CGC. Also, the interior well was all scuffed up, so the book looked terrible in the case, and the label was crooked, so he had to contact CGC, have them, he had to send the book back, have them re-slab the book, and he also had similar problems. He sent in a giant size X-Men 1, the label was wrong, he caught the time when they had all the problems with the printing, with their special labels, so he has experienced a lot of the same things that with CGC that we do, which I think is just, I think that's kind of just fun hearing about other people's shared issues that they have. So what am I getting to with all of this? So when issue 3 was printed, Kevin Eastman wrote a letter to Lawrence Klein, because remember, he had a letter actually published in that issue. And so with that letter, he also sent him 3 copies of issue number 3, the variant print, the one that was printed first. And Lawrence sent me a scanned copy of that letter, and this is what it said. "Hey, got a surprise and a special gift. As you've noticed, there are 3 books enclosed, 3 copies of number 3. Hooray! Why are these special? Well, because we pushed the printer into giving us 300 books early, so we could have some to take to the New Hampshire convention. I mean, we won't even be shipping these books for another 3 weeks. I want you to get these as soon as possible. Anything for our #1 fan. Take care, Larry. I hope you enjoy the books, and I'd like to hear what you think of them. Best wishes, Kevin Eastman." So there are a couple things there that I think are important, especially for collectors, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collectors, because first, the big thing, 300 copies, not 500. That is a huge deal. That is 40% less books that are out there. 200 less books of that variant print that are out there. So according to CGC, according to their census, there are a total of 187 graded. There are 147 universal, 37 signatures, 1 restored, and 2 qualified. So this fits within that 300 print run guideline. Now, CBCS just announced that they're starting to slab magazine size books, so they really wouldn't have any of these yet in their count. So CGC is really where that count exists. Now, the second thing, less important, but still I just think an interesting detail, is that people always reference that it was printed for the New York City Comic Con. That is not the case. This wasn't for the New York City Comic Con. This was for a New Hampshire convention. New York City Comic Con actually didn't even exist in name until the 2000s. Back in that time, it would have been called the Creation Cons. But like I said, this was for a convention in New Hampshire. According to this letter, this was not for the New York City Comic Con. So just something, a little detail to clear up with that book. So why do I think that this happened? That article from the Comics Buyer's Guide was from 1989. It was 4 years after the fact. Somebody likely just rounded a number, or they guessed on the article and everyone just took it as fact. Or maybe they even reached out to Kevin Eastman or Peter Laird and they said, oh, something like 500. But this letter was written right when these books were printed. This was in Kevin Eastman's own hand, and the source is from Lawrence Klein, somebody who is clearly a very reputable source within Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and comics in general. So to me, that is a much more trustworthy source than an article that was written 4 years after the printing. So what does this mean for this book? I mean, the big thing is that if you want to get your hands on a copy of this book, if you're a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collector, there are a lot less of them out there than were originally thought. There are 200 less of them out there than originally thought. With 187 on the census, you maybe thought there were 313 out there that could still be found. But now there are only 113 out there that could maybe still be found. And it's pretty safe to assume that some of those have been, I say, lost to time, destroyed, thrown out, whatever it might be, and just don't exist anymore. So the total number that are left that are available is likely much smaller than that. I'm sure less than 100. If you're a TMNT completionist, I would be looking for that book, because this means there are a lot less of them out there than originally thought. It was already a pretty small number. 500 is a very small print count, but now it's down to 300 and obviously potentially even less than that. So I think that is it's a big deal for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collectors. If you're trying to collect those earlier issues, those magazine size issues, and if you're, a completionist and want to make sure that you have every issue, then again, a lot less of them out there. Now, to close this out, I really want to thank Lawrence for reaching out to me. It was, like I said, we talked on the phone for like an hour, or maybe it's even more than an hour. It was great. Hope to talk to him again. Had a lot of fun. He has a bunch of great stories and just some crazy things that, from my perspective, just the stuff like meeting and talking to LB Cole, hanging out with Jack Kirby, just those kinds of things are just incredible. So again, thank you, Lawrence, for reaching out, and hope you enjoyed this video. Now, for everyone else, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch some of my other videos, and the subscription button right here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.